All right, welcome everybody to Youngstown Studio. Our guest today will appear this Saturday, August 30th at the Retro Toy Market in Niles. The show features vendors, food, live wrestling matches by Mega Championship Wrestling, and a meet and greet with two wrestling superstars. So with us today, we have from Wildcard Video Games show promoter Michael Rickard, as well as former WWE star, the subject of a recent episode of Dark Side of the Ring on Vice as well too, Muhammad Hassan or Marc Copani. Mark, how are you? Michael, how are you? Thank you guys for being here.
Great, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mark, what brought you to wrestling in the first place? When did you know that wrestling was something that you wanted to do for a living?
I grew up in the city of Syracuse, and I remember my father and my uncle took me and my brother to a wrestling event at the War Memorial in Syracuse, and it was the first live action wrestling event that I've ever seen. Obviously, growing up in the 1980s is when wrestling was really starting to explode with the WWE, kind of unifying all the territories. Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, and Ricky Steamboat, and Ric Flair. And so I kind of was hooked after that. And I started having these wrestling matches in my basement. I had a handful of cousins and then our parents' friends who were relatively our age. And so we would set up the couches, make a ring, put the pillows down, and we'd have a wrestling matches. So it was something that I loved from an early age, and I kind of got more into sports and more into having a job and working. And it wasn't until I went to college and I had a roommate that was huge into wrestling, and this was around the WCW, WWE era with The Rock and Steve Austin, and so I started watching again in college, and it was like, man, I really still love this. And my other roommate had all these old tapes, the old WCW, old WWE, so I started watching all these old tapes. It eventually became something that was like, I love this. You know what? I am going to do this. And so I left college my junior year, and I moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and enrolled in OVW, and that was it. I went from there.
I got you. All right, we're joined by our other guests now. Also appearing, like I said, this Saturday at the Retro Toy Market in Niles, Gene Snitsky. Well, tell me, so with you two guys, I mean, when did your guys' paths first cross? Was it in Ohio Valley Wrestling, or was it prior to that?
Craigslist.
OVW, yeah, OVW. We had first met when I was down there for a couple of years, and they brought Gene down there from, what was it, Pittsburgh you were in, right? With the Samoans. I was down in OVW for a couple of years, and they brought you in from the Samoan.
Yeah, I trained at the Wild Samoan Pro Wrestling Training Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and got signed in June of 2004. And then Mark had already been there, so when I got there, he was kind of like the elder statesman, so to speak. He helped me out a lot back in the day, getting acquainted with the OVW style and the WWE style, and always took care of me and steered me in the right direction. One of the best guys I know right there.
And then we traveled together often when we were both up. He got brought up real quick, a lot quicker than I did, but we were up there at the WWE around the same time. So Gene, Chris Master, Sean Davari, like we preferred to ride cars together. We got along really well. So we traveled really too.
Good times.
What was it like working with Jim Cornette?
I love Jimmy, man. Jimmy is one of the most passionate and intense and raw and realist individuals that you ever want to meet. He is fiercely loyal to his people. He was on the Dark Side of the Ring episode, and I emailed him after I watched it just to tell him how much I appreciate everything he said about me, and I was just so elated to hear him say all those kind things about him, because I've always held him with the utmost respect. Jimmy knows the business, Jimmy understands the business, and Jimmy loves the business. So he's, again, passionate, intense, but he was a lot of fun to work with, and he took care of his guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jimmy was awesome. I often would just sit back and watch him go. Like once he started, there was no stopping him. So I just sat back and enjoyed the show.
You just never want to be that guy that Jimmy was cutting a promo on. If you were in that position, man, you were not going to win. You were done. It was over. Lights out.
Yeah, I mean his podcast is always hilarious to me, and like the clips. I honestly like the podcast the most when he's just complaining about stuff at his house or not getting technology to work. Like he'll go off on it for like 20 minutes, and it's hilarious. The entire 20 minutes is completely hilarious.
So I originally had texted him, and Jimmy doesn't give his contact info out to very many people, if anybody. And so I texted him. I never heard back. I'm like, I must have changed his number. And so I actually found his email address to his website, and I emailed him. And I told him I texted him. He's like, well, that would have worked because I don't have a cell phone. He doesn't have a cell phone. He's just got a regular house phone still. Same number. He just can't text it, obviously. So, yeah, I can imagine how hysterical that would be. And he's so funny anyway.
Here's a funny Jim Cornette story for you. When I first started on television, obviously, the angle with Glenn and Lita, and I remember coming back to OVW, and Jim says to me, "Well, you're not going to be on TV here anymore." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "I can't have a baby killer on my show." No. Because every time, like, just with the fans would see me, they'd start chanting "baby killer." So I'd have to come into this OVW incognito and hide up in the rafters to watch the show. He hated that. He's like, "You're never going to be on a show here again."
Nice. So one question I wanted to ask you both. I mean, how would you say the pro wrestling product has changed since, say, sort of those OVW days or the early 2000s, maybe through 2005, 2006 to today? I mean, there's obviously some similarities, but a lot of things that are different. But how would you guys say it's changed over the years?
I think I don't watch a lot. I put it on as often as I can, but I think culturally it's very different. The locker room's very different. The support backstage. From what I hear, Sean Devari is a producer for the WWE, and so him and I talk, not often enough, but often. And it feels like it's a very different, more supportive and nurturing atmosphere. You want to see people do well. As far as the product goes, from 2005 when I was there, the culture has shifted so much in this country that I feel like you have to be a lot more careful. I mean, the things we were doing in OVW, the promos we were cutting, and the content of them were immediate cancelization if you did it in 2025. So I imagine that carrying that over to a much larger production is a lot more, obviously a lot more viewers, so you have to kind of scale back. And everything I see is action-packed, a lot of talent. Really, a whole lot of talent. I love the women's division. I think they're super athletes. Every time I watch Raw, I'm always impressed. But as far as the content goes, it's just a lot stable. It's got to be. You don't see baby killers anymore.
Well, that's the funny thing. Like here at the shop, I get fans coming in. They're like, "Oh man, you planted that baby." Blah, blah. I'm like, "Yeah, you couldn't do that today. You wouldn't have a Snitsky today, man." But ironically, I was just at Monday Night Raw in Philly and hanging out with Devari, my old buddy. As Mark said, we used to travel together. So whenever he's in the area, I try to swing down, say hello. So the wife and I rolled down to Philly and hung out with Sean and caught up with some of the guys. And man, it's way different now, way different. Like Mark was saying, just a lot of the backstage shenanigans that went on when we were there could never ever take place these days. So. And I'm so glad they don't have social media back in those days because who knows what could have became of all the craziness that we went through back in 2004 and 2005. And, it's just, I think back on some of the stories, when I tell people, I'm like, man, we can never do that today. We can never do that today. We can never do that today. It's like, the way social media has taken over the business, and it's just crazy because everybody's watching everybody all the time. When you think you're being, inconspicuous, you're probably still being watched.
Was there a moment for you for both? Again, the question for both of you guys. Was there a specific moment that you knew you were over, like over with the crowd, obviously?
I was the thing with me was I had played pro football for a little bit before I got into WWE, so I was always kind of like interacting with fans and stuff like that. But I never had anybody ask me for my autograph. So I was traveling through Detroit one time, and I'm walking, and it's funny because I still tell my wife this to this day. I say, don't ever stop unless somebody calls you by your real name, because then, they know you. Mm-hmm. So I'm walking through the Detroit airport, just minding my own business, trying to be as incognito as I can with looking like this. And I'm just kind of walking, and I hear Snitsky, Snitsky. And I'm like, I just keep walking. I'm like, I don't know these people. I don't know anybody in Detroit, so I'm just going to keep walking. Well, this fan runs up to me. He's like, oh, man, I saw you last night. That was awesome, blah, blah, blah. Can I get your autograph? And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, I never thought anything of it until that moment when someone actually like approached me in public at an airport. Can I get your autograph? Mm-hmm. Like, that's the weirdest thing to me about like the whole WWE thing. Like, just the notoriety, how people see you on TV and then, instantly act like, they know you or they know who you are, or like, it's just crazy to me, like how it transcends over every walk of life, like every walk of life.
Mm-hmm. Mark, how about you?
If there's a specific moment, I mean, I'm thinking back and I'm thinking about the first promo, because we had done some vignettes for a few weeks where I was slowly introduced to the crowd, and then the vignettes, which were like the little backstage or the off-screen real life storylines that stories that WWE did. They got increasingly aggressive, and so they started out very neutral and intentionally got increasingly aggressive. And so the time I actually came out and left with Mick Foley, the crowd had been used to me and they were forming their opinions on me. But as soon as I came out there, the crowd knew, just based on what I said in the first couple of minutes, that they were directed to hate me. And so I think once I heard the crowd's reaction and the chanting and the booing and the emotion and passion behind it, I think that was kind of the moment I was like, oh my God, this character is cool. Plus, I'm out there with Mick Foley, carrying the promo with him. And so, carrying on the promo with him. But I think that was it. I think it was definitely that moment where I kind of went backstage and I realized that this is a pretty good character.
Mm-hmm. How important is it for you guys to sort of attend events like this, like the Retro Toy Market, and sort of reconnect with fans? And are there certain times where you're surprised that certain fans might know? Like, so, I mean, wrestling fans are obviously the most dedicated fans, I think, among just about any sport, any kind of thing. I mean,
sometimes they know a lot more than they actually remember, which is wild.
But yeah, but how important is it for you guys to connect with fans at shows like this?
I mean, I love doing these things. Like the guys at the shop, I always tell them, I'm like, man, it's so much fun going to do these conventions. I get to sit and shoot the shit with the fans and actually interact with the fans. Because when you're actually, when you're at WWE wrestling, you don't really have that many opportunities to do it back when we were there. Now they have a lot more opportunities, but it's nice to be able to like actually talk to people and, get to know your fans a bit. Because, obviously without the fans, there'd be no Snitsky, there'd be no WWE, there'd be no, Muhammad Hassan and all that stuff. So, and I love sitting and talking with the fans. They come in the shop. I'll shoot the shit with anybody, take pictures, autographs. I don't care. It's cool because, as a performer, that's what you want. You want to bring out the emotion in the fans. And obviously I must have brought out some emotions because, here we are 20 years later, still talking about kicking babies and, kind of, silliness like that. So, it's cool that, people like even younger people, like people I would never know, think of would know about the storyline. Like, oh man, I remember when you wrestled King and blah blah blah. Like to me, it's crazy. Like the way that, like I said earlier, transcends over all walks of life because you got the young, the old, middle aged, everybody. It's like, especially here in Pennsylvania, where I live in Pennsylvania, man. Like wrestling is enormous. It's still big, still everybody's still watching it. Everybody keeps up with it. So it's kind of cool. To have that effect on the fans to where they want to, actually come and see me and meet me and all that kind of stuff because, I love sitting and talking with people. And Mark will tell you, I could tell stories and I'm a bullshitter. I could bullshit with the best of them. So it's great. It's great to be able to sit and actually, get that side of it from the fans' perspective of, their memories and, what was going on through their life at that time. So it's kind of, it's cool to still have that effect on people.
Mm. Nice. Mark, how about you?
Exactly. I mean, I didn't do anything for a long time when I was in the midst of rebuilding my career and going to school. And I didn't have the opportunity at the time, really. And I had 4 children and raising them. And so now that they're older and I'm a lot more settled in my current position, it is really cool to kind of get out on the road and meet some of the fans. And like Gene said, I completely agree. I'm always astonished when people have, tell me how much of an impact I had. Or, a lot of times I get like, I hated you so much, but now I realize how good you are on that character. Or they just want to talk about their experience 20 years ago, or I mean, it was really cool. Again, some of the larger conventions, Gene, that was like we connected in Philly. That's what kind of like last year, and I got to see like Shelton Benjamin, and I saw JBL at the last one I did, and Mick Foley. And so for me, with this experience being so far behind me, it's just kind of cool to relive it for that weekend. And it'll be cool, like when we get there on Friday, to grab a bite to eat with Gene, and we'll get to see Gene often enough, and we hang out with Gene for the weekend. And Gene, we're gonna be in Iowa, I think, the weekend after that.
Yep.
So that's what's cool to me is meeting fans and hearing and being honored that I had any sort of impact on their life so long ago that they still remember, and then be able to see some of my friends that I haven't seen in a long time. Because man, you really bond when you're on the road with these guys, and you spend more time with them than your family. I mean, easily. And so they become your family. And so that was one of the biggest thrills to me, is to be able to see some of my former colleagues. And shake their hands and catch up. So I'm looking forward, and I'd like to do more of them. Now that I'm able to, I'm still really busy, but I'd like to try to get in to do some more of these appearances and some of the bigger ones too, just because it is so much fun, and it really does motivate you to be a better person, to hear that you had such a great effect on somebody 20 years ago. It makes you want to be better every day.
Mm-hmm. About a month ago or so, we the wrestling world lost arguably one of the most recognizable people, not just for wrestling, but in pop culture with when Hulk Hogan passed away. Do you guys have any memories, good, bad, and different, working with Hulk Hogan?
Well, Mark actually worked with him. I was a 10-year-old flipping through the channels in Nesquehoning, Pennsylvania. I was like, "Oh, what's this? Oh, this looks cool." And then Hogan's cutting a promo, and I'm like, "Man, that guy's out of his mind. This is freaking great." So I was, that kind of what reeled me in. I was like, oh. So ever since then, I've been a huge Hogan fan. And then, always wanted to wrestle. So, jumped to 2005 when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame at WWE. I got to meet him and meet the family. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like as a 10-year-old, I was watching this guy. And now I'm like standing here. I know the guy. He knows me. We're talking. It's like crazy how your life goes full circle like that, man. Because he's like the main reason I got into wrestling.
Yeah, same. I don't think there are any wrestlers who wrestled in the last 30 years that are going to say that Hulk Hogan wasn't a major influence on them. Growing up, I was a little Hulkster and had my pills and ate my vitamins. And so when I got to work with him, he was always great to shine. There was never any... with us, we're obviously not going to beat Hulk Hogan, so I know he has issues with other wrestlers, but for us, just to be able to be in one room and living such an amazing experience, and I always think of our time in Madison Square Garden, and nobody knew he was going to be there. I was working with Shawn Michaels, and ending the match with Pete and Shawn down, setting up a tag team match, a month or two later, and Hogan came out with his music hit, and it was just the loudest thing I've ever heard. They literally lifted you off the mat because it was like the sound waves were making you gravitate. And that's my greatest memory of Hulk Hogan. WrestleMania was amazing, but just realizing that it could be so loud in any space at all. And it was always so much fun to work. I mean, it was easy to do. I remember when we did right for Madison Square Garden, he came up behind me, put me a big bear hug, lifted me off the ground. Like he was, this was a very good guy. So I'm happy that he lived up to the hero that I had grown up thinking he was with my experiences.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Mike, anything specific you want to ask these guys?
Mike, are you there? Are you awake?
I'm here. I'm here.
No sleeping in the studio.
No sleeping. I'm just looking forward to working with both you guys this weekend. I think we're going to have a great time at the Niles Retro Toy Market, and of course at the D&E Collectibles in Pittsburgh. It's going to be a good time. Everyone's going to get to meet them. A lot of people are excited about meeting both you guys there.
Mike, what? So of both of these guys, man, can you give me like one of your biggest memories of seeing both Gene and Mark in the ring?
The memories for Mark, I just remember just how bad he got booed all the time.
Mhm.
And he was just getting booed by everybody because it was during that time where, it was America versus everybody.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing that, the crowd response for it. And of course, with Gene, it has to be when he kicked Lita's baby and it just went flying. God, that thing flew probably like 200 feet almost, right?
I was trying to hit the sign thing above the Jumbotron above the ring.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking in my head. I'm like, I'm gonna whack this sucker off that, and then it ended up carrying into the crowd. And a little tidbit of useless information that most people don't know: if you watch closely, the guy that caught the baby doll actually threw it back at me. He was so disgusted with me, he threw it back at me. You can see my head flinch just a little bit because it skimmed like right above my head. So just little, like I said, useless information for those fans out there. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if that would have hit me in the head, I would have had to no sell it and just stand there. So it's kind of funny, like thinking about it. Like it literally came an inch above my head, so that could have all changed the trajectory of that whole segment. But yeah.
Was the baby like a Cabbage Patch doll? What or just a regular baby doll? What was it? What was it you kicked?
From what I could recall, it was just like your standard baby doll off the shelf at Walmart. And it's funny because another quick little story. When we were walking through it in the ring, Vince was like, "Hey, don't F this up." And I for shoot, I looked at him and I went, "Mr. McMahon, I was an all-area punter in high school. This is going to be amazing." And he was just like, "Eh." So after I did it, I came back through the gorilla and he's like giving me a hug. He's like, "That was freaking great." I'm like, "I told you."
Nice, Mark. How intense did sort of the heat get for you? Playing that character, the sort of the foreigner character. And do you think? I mean, you mentioned not being able to get away with certain stuff. There is still a little bit of an aspect to sometimes with foreign characters today, but not on that level. But yeah, sort of describe walk me through some of the heat you got as Muhammad Hassan.
Muhammad Hassan was the character generated a lot of real life because the time was tragic and very public, and it was. I think the worst part about it was not just being treated differently. I said this in the dark side, and I agree. I almost got to experience what it was like to be an Arab American in 2004 and 2005, and it wasn't fun. And obviously I could always just take everything off and be Marc Copani and go to the gym and go with that twice and say Rickard. But, when we would travel with the boys, we would stay in character. And so we would look Arab and we would look intimidating. And, there was all kinds of crazy stories. People calling over families from the punch out, right in the back of the plane. And we told us when we landed that Sean and I got on, and we had heads on, and we had sunglasses, and we said more than one. People calling their families from back in the plane because they were so nervous and scared that something was going to happen. There's hearing things that people said to us, and even the signs. Like I said, those signs would have been censored in that today's standard. But hearing the signs and hearing what they said to us were out in the ring, coming down to the ring. In the United States, at that time, people were understanding that it was a show, and so there were a few times that felt unsafe. Like Sean and I were driving. We were somewhere down south. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. We were going from show to show, and we had stopped somewhere. And I remember all the details. I was like, in the car, we sped out of there, And there were some times where I felt it could have been a little bit, scary, but it was just a realization that there was a group of people in this country that had nothing to do with the tragic events in 9/11 that were being blamed for it, and how easy it was for us to turn on. And I think that was the worst part. Was the heat I got wasn't like boo, boo, you suck. It was like real heat, actual heat.
What do you remember most about squaring off in the ring against each other?
I don't think we ever did.
Did you guys ever have a match against each other? No.
Actually, the one memory I had, Gene, and I don't even know if you remember this, is when you first got to OVW, we were doing a drill in the ring, and I hate getting shot. Like, I would rather get punched in the face than get shot. And I just remember that you went to roll me over. You didn't do anything wrong. You're just a big dude. He like my side off spot and my shoulder, and before he could even roll me over, I just go, "What the fuck, Gene?"
I was a little rough around the edges when I first got there because I was, obviously my style was like, power and just overpowering heel before they developed into the Snitsky character that we all know today. So, Mark would, we'd be doing drills and stuff, and until I found my way through the intricacies of the little ins and outs of wrestling. Some people probably got a little upset with me, but it's okay because you know why? It's not my fault.
You weren't reckless. I just hate getting slapped. Like anybody else probably wouldn't have said a word when I screamed. It was like, bam, we're like that soft part of your stomach. But you were never dangerous or reckless and winning at all. You were always safe. But we were always safe. We never would have the opportunity to work with each other. Really, even in OVW. I mean, we just did drills together. I think that was the only time. Yeah,
no, like I said, man, Mark was always like when I first got there, Mark was always kind of one of the leaders, and he always helped me. And I just I was a sponge, man. I came in, I wanted to learn as much as I could, as fast as I could, and Mark helped me, and we ended up being good buddies and traveled together. And I was honored when he called me to do the Dark Side of the Ring episode. So, it's cool to have somebody like that, working with you and showing you the ropes per se. When you first get there, because it's, back in those days of WWE, it was either sink or swim, man. If you didn't swim, you were getting cement boots put on your feet and you were sinking. So,
I'll say the same. The reason why I traveled with Gene is because I knew no one was going to mess with me if Gene had my back. So he's a good guy to travel with.
Nice. So kind of looking ahead. I'm Gene, you said you just were at Raw recently. Any sort of other sort of wrestling appearances? Kind of. I mean, outside of obviously this weekend, but I mean, any kind of would another match be out of the question for both of you? Would another an appearance in some capacity with another independent promotion out there? But yeah, kind of what's in store in terms of wrestling for you guys over the course of the next 6 months to a year, if anything?
I'm not wrestling again. I don't know, Gene. You're a little older than me. I don't know if you want to wrestle again.
I still do some stuff here and there, more so just to keep my face out there for the shop. We have Priority One Surplus here in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Check our website out, PriorityOneSurplus.com. If you want to stop by the shop, I'm usually here as well. But so I do it more so for that, just to get people in the door at the shop and keep my name out there and stuff like that. But if I got to kick somebody's ass, I can still kick somebody's ass. I'm just saying.
Nice. Well, Michael, you want to give us a little bit of a rundown of everything that's kind of going to be in store? One more rundown of it, and then we'll let these guys go. But let us know what we're in store for at the Retro Toy Market this weekend. This Saturday,
it'll be from 10 to 4. These guys will be there from 11 to 3 signing autographs. We have Mega Championship Wrestling there, doing wrestling, live wrestling, free wrestling show. So you just come hang out. We have food there. We have some vendors there selling stuff too, and it'll be a lot of fun. Weather looks great.
Nice. Excellent. Well, Gene and Mark, hey, thank you so very much for the time. Very, very much appreciated. And we'll let you go. But yeah, again, everybody catch Gene and Mark this weekend, Saturday, August 30th at the Retro Toy Market in Niles. They'll be there signing from 11 to 3. But thank you guys again so much, man. It was a pleasure to meet you both.
No, my pleasure. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a big Batman fan. So if any of my fans out there happen to have any extra Batman stuff they'd like to bring by on Saturday, I'll gladly take a peek at it. And if you don't make it to the show, it's not my fault.
Nice. Hey, thank you guys so much, man. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. I can't wait to meet all the fans in Ohio and tear it up with Mark like old times, man. Can't wait to see you, buddy.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here.